lot of rumors circulating around the Toronto Raptors. There was a report from Josh Lewenberg. He's essentially saying that his sense that the Raptors are planning to re-sign Jakob Poeltl and Freddie. And then you had another report come out today from Michael Grange saying one league source told him that the Rockets, who have $60 million in cap space, are going to tempt VanVleet with a 2-year deal for $80 million, adding the veteran stability to the team. So don't know what to believe at the moment. Is he going to Houston? Is he staying? What do you think the Raptors should do with Freddie?
I think they got to a point now where their hands are tied. If they want to have a point guard that can run an offense next year, they have to bring Freddie back. And the problem now is if Houston's offering him such money like that, they might have to overpay for him. You know, I'm even looking at a ballpark of something like maybe 4 years, $140 million. Because even the likes of Tyler Hero is demanding something like, I think, $130 over 4 years. So if you got Tyler Hero making something like that, and he's one of your perimeter shooters, but you've got Freddie who handles the ball, he's going to demand that money. And right now, for me, it's more so the ball isn't Freddie's court. Does he want to go somewhere and make money and then go babysit some young rookies? Or does he want to stay here and figure out what this year looks like with this new coach and this new direction of a team? But I don't really know if it's a new direction because I think they are going to, it looks like, perhaps run it back. I think so.
Yeah. Be a different style, right? But, okay, well, here's the question I feel like nobody is asking. Is Freddie worth that? Is he worth that money? He's going to get it from somebody, whether it's the Raptors or another team, but is he actually worth that number?
No. And I think what's happening here,
he's not worth $30 million, or he's not worth $40 million?
He's not worth $40 million for 2 years. Are you kidding me? $80 million? That's nuts. That's crazy for 2 years. And he's a great player, but he's not the caliber of a player that you bring to a team, especially that's rebuilding with the Rockets, and then he moves the needle. Because he wouldn't really move a needle. And the thing that sucks with the Rockets too, which I'm thinking now, you just drafted Amin Thompson, you have Jalen Green, you have so many point guards next to you and forwards. Who's gonna handle the ball? Who's gonna run it? And will they even listen to someone like Freddie, who, yes, he's won a championship, and yes, he's proven himself as being undrafted, but does he really hold that respect value as someone like maybe James Harden, who I think they were going after, and they're pivoting now to Fred VanVleet?
I think that you mentioned James Harden. I think James Harden's the fact. If James Harden does not go back to Houston, then I see the Rockets throwing all that money at Fred VanVleet.
I have an update, actually, on James Harden. According to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, indications are James Harden will stay with the Sixers.
Wow.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
That changes things.
No, that's
that
indications. It could change again. But... Yeah,
but the thing is, that's also an overpay for someone like Freddie if you're the Houston Rockets, because they still need to get more depth in there. And I think they were looking at someone like Brook Lopez, but is Brook Lopez going to go for maybe $20 million now if Freddie demands so much money? And it looks like Brook Lopez might actually go back and sign with the Bucks. So Rockets are at a point where if they're rebuilding a young core, they just want to have a veteran presence in there, but they don't really have anyone else to shop for. So if the Raptors lose him to Rockets as well, who do you have left over on the market?
Well, that's what I want to ask
Schroeder?
you. That's what I want to ask you.
If they lose,
I'm okay without that.
If they lose Fred VanVleet, which it might happen, who knows? If it's not Houston, it could be Orlando. It could be another team that comes in to play that needs a guard. If they lose Fred VanVleet, what's the plan? Who's going to be the starting point guard?
Well, the agents right now that could come and sign over, there's 2 in point guards, which is Dennis Schroeder, and then on top of that, there's Gabe Vincent. Both of them are not the caliber of a player that will replace Fred VanVleet. And then if you want to trade for someone, you're looking at like Monte Morris. You know, and that's not, again, and DeLon Wright. You're going to bring back DeLon Wright after, but DeLon Wright is, again, not your caliber starting point guard of a team where you want to, make some noise next year. So their best bet at this point, where they shot themselves in the foot, is to just bring back Jakob Poeltl, bring back Fred next year. They already signed Gary Trent, and see what this team looks like with
and they can also still flip Trent, right?
They could.
In terms of free agent point guards, obviously the top of the list, it's Kyrie and Freddie. D'Angelo Russell, Patrick Beverley, Russell Westbrook, Schroeder, Gabe Vincent, Javon Carter, Trey Jones. It's a shallow pool, man.
It's very shallow. And I think if the Raptors are to keep Fred VanVleet and Jakob Poeltl, they're going to have to pay the tax, right, this year. And we know MLSC, like you mentioned, like they're in a position where they want to still make money. So...
I was right about that, by the way, was I not?
You were. Larry T did sell his stake for an estimated $8 billion big ones, but
dude,
I think... When you look at the Toronto Raptors, Noor, and you look at the landscape of the NBA, this is a team spending in the luxury tax, and they're not. If you look at they're not a top 5 team in the East. They're maybe 6 in the best case situation, as currently constructed. They're a play-in team. Is this smart of them to keep on bringing these guys back, or do they just have no choice and they have to do it?
You know, it sucks because if you're looking at it from like the outside in, you're just like, okay, you had this chance to go back now, make a new team, get rid of your core, figure out, dump some salaries and everything. But then when you hear about the reports that come out and of what they're being offered in return for those players, you don't want to make those trades. Like Jordan Poole for OG Anunoby, that's a little bit, I wouldn't do that.
So let me ask you guys this. Do you think that the rest of the NBA landscape doesn't hold the Raptors pieces in the same high regard as the Raptors do? Like, do you think the Raptors overvalue their own players?
I don't. That's a good question, but I don't think so. I think what they're trying to do is give Masai the best that they think they can get, because no one wants to give up more than what they have to get, right? That's what they're kind of doing there, and they're trying to see what level Masai will come to when it gets to maybe pushing him over the edge. But for us, like, even when you hear about those trades like Terrence Mann for Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby for Jordan Poole, those trades are not good on paper at all. So if they're trending it down, they do value their players, and maybe rightfully so, because I don't see those swaps happening and where the Raptors come out on top, because you want to come out on top in some way, shape, or form either too, right?
All right, let's talk about OG, because I'm kind of fascinated with this. I don't know why, but he leaves his agency in Klutch Sports and Rich Paul. You know better than anyone here, I think. What does that actually mean? OG leaving his agency. How does that affect the Toronto Raptors is probably the question.
I don't think it does anything for the Raptors. I don't think it does much for his future with the Raptors either. It's probably just a matter of the change of scenery, a different contract he wants to look into. Maybe Rich Paul didn't like how OG operated too, because OG's contract right now is one of the best contracts for a team in the league currently. So maybe that was another thing where maybe they wanted to make him more money or make more money off of OG, and OG's way more, I guess he seems more content to be where he is and take that pay cut if he wanted to, because he did take that pay cut last year, and it probably hurt the Rich Paul community a little bit there too. So it could have been a dual thing where they both realized that, okay, we can just part ways. But in terms of his future and where he could go from that, I don't think it changes much. I think him signing with Rich Paul could have been something where you're like, well, could he be heading to another LeBron piece?
Look what Fred VanVleet did. He just signed with Klutch, up for right before he became a free agent to try to get the best deal possible. And for OG to leave Klutch, Klutch has got a lot of players. Pretty much every big name player in the league now is with Klutch Sports, right? And maybe OG just felt he wasn't getting the respect he deserves from Klutch, and he wanted to go to another agency, because next year he's a free agent. Next year, guys, he can become a free agent, and he's gonna get a big pay raise, whether that's from the Toronto Raptors or another team, right? And I think that, to me, going to next season, might be the biggest storyline for the Toronto Raptors. What do they do with OG Anunoby and his contract situation?
Because we could see a bunch of people being
same with Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, there's still a lot that could potentially happen. I just want to know how OG feels. Like, if you're bringing back Trent, Fred, and Jakob, where does he fit? And how does he feel about fitting as maybe the third or fourth guy? Because he's pretty vocal about that.
And how does he also feel about being in the trades constantly? It's either him and Siakam recently, right?
Yeah.
If the team wants to trade someone, they're going to have to either trade him or Siakam. So at that moment too, like, the uncertainty factor probably is a lot for a player who probably wants to stay there for as long as he can. And now he's being told every other month that, his name's in the trades. And people are inquiring about him. And Masai's shutting it down. So I feel like at any moment for him, it's like, I could be packing bags and heading out of here.
This is probably the first Raptors conversation in the past couple of weeks that didn't involve speaking about Grady Dick. So I think we've done a good job. But we definitely need to have another conversation, because there's so much to break down with this team in terms of what are they going to do with Siakam, and are they going to trade Trent, and what does Darko as a head coach with Toronto Raptors actually mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, what's he going to do? Is it better to keep the core and let it run under this new system? We'll see. Maybe there'll be rewards coming out of that, but we don't know. Norzay Knapp, you're the best. Thank you so much for doing this. Okay, coming up after the break, we got a special guest. BC Lions owner Amar Doman is joining the show. Justin Pooney pulled some strings, and we got a high-profile guest coming up, man.
Wait, what? I'm right here.
And Norzay.
Come on,
obviously,
now.
Norzay Knapp. Okay, stay tuned for that coming up after the break.